Am I ever not just covered in fucking soot? Oh man, alright. So, here's a bit of advice from me, right? Never trust a pitmaster or a fire cook who isn't always covered in soot. Like, I work in an office building surrounded by very clean, well-presented people, and maybe once or twice a month I am in the office and I'm covered in soot stain all up my arms. There's little lines. In fact, let me see it. Little lines that you end up all up your arm. You can wash them, but they don't come off. You can wash them over and over again. I think you need to strip the dermis before that actually comes off. But anyway, I digress. So, fire's ticking by nicely. These have been going for about 4 hours now, and it's just the most drama-free cook ever because I'm inside the shelter, so smoke's not a factor, and I'm not fucking around. I'm not just doing random shit with like hundreds of pounds of meat. I'm actually, following a recipe that I know works, that is tried and tested, my recipes that I've done in the past that I know work like a charm. But it's got me thinking while I was having my cup of tea. I figured I should probably say something thoughtful and profound about barbecue while I'm sat tending my fires, and I've got this time, I've got the camera out. So I wanted to talk about perfectionism in the barbecue scene through the lens of social media, because it's a pitfall that I fall into all the time. I've got about 20 episodes of The Danger Pit on my computer where I've gotten so far with editing them and then decided, do you know what, the end product, it wasn't fantastic, the filming wasn't fantastic, just a million different reasons why I've talked myself out of presenting some brilliant stuff that I've done. And I think that's really shit. And as well as that, the pressure that comes from barbecue and that presentation of barbecue here on YouTube and other social media platforms, you see those perfect briskets, those perfect beef ribs, those perfect pork ribs, and it's always so perfect, and you can get your barbecue to look like that. But that's not what barbecue is. Barbecue's not about how your food looks, it's about how it tastes. It's about the fun you had while you were cooking it. It's about sharing it with your friends, with your family, and creating something really unique and fun that you've never done before. So the pitfalls of social media. So I threw all my beef ribs on the smoker and I knew I wasn't going to have enough room for them. And as I'm putting this footage together and I'm thinking, do you know what, like, this looks like dog shit. This looks like a hot mess. It just looks like hodgepodge thrown on there, and what's not shown in the slapdash way that things are slapped together on there is the actual methodology that's gone between turning each piece of meat, making sure that it's all been exposed fairly and evenly to all the smoke and the heat, and making sure that it's all getting rotated and stuff. Try and capture it with a camera, but it turns out it doesn't make for interesting viewing as an audience. I find it interesting as the person doing it, but that's just me. But I know that there are going to be people who are going to be looking at my footage and seeing how I've got ribs on top of ribs, just stacked on top of ribs, thrown in there, and they're going to be rolling their eyes and thinking, oh, this fucking jackass hasn't got a clue what he's doing. And that's not fair. It's not fair because the end product is going to be even. It's going to be perfect. I know when I first started cooking, I was really pensive about, for example, pressing my meat together. Pressing my meat together when it was inside the smoker, because social media and all of the influencers that I paid attention to, your Aaron Franklins, your Rodney Scotts, your Jerbies, your Chuds, all of these big names in barbecue tell you to make sure that you've got loads of room in between all of your meat. Now, while that does make for a slightly even, slightly faster cook, that plus or minus in percentage only really matters when you're running a massive rig and you're running a restaurant. When you're just some goose like me and you're just cooking food for fun, not only does it not matter, but that advice is irrelevant. Using a smaller smoker is completely different to using a larger smoker. A mistake that I made when I tried to copy some big pitmaster with some big pitmaster brand, but that works fine when you've got an enormous 1,000-gallon smoker and you're putting big full splits on, and you can take your pit from cold to hot. You can use beef fat, you can use beef tallow and stuff inside your fire chamber, because the amount in which that's diluted into your food is significantly smaller because there's more food in there, it's more displaced out, and the impact of those little errors is dampened down a little bit, which is why you would never see a backyard cook like me appearing on like a big Time magazine front cover of hot shit barbecue goon, because it's just kind of not how it is. But that to some extent is also not in the spirit of barbecue. Now, I've been doing barbecue for like 5-6 years now, and every time I do a cook I learn something new. I make a mistake, I learn something new. Hopefully not going to eat my fucking words here, but I think this cook is going to turn out really nice. I'm pretty sure that the ribs are going to come out really beautifully, because I just kind of followed my instincts. I've been tending my fires by following my instincts, and it's the kind of thing that just comes from practice and from learning. And I think about all the people who told me not to let your temperatures spike up and down. You know, it's kind of true, but at the same time, it's also bollocks. If you're using a smaller smoker, your temperatures are going to spike up and down because you're feeding a fire. That natural ebb and flow of the fire, it's just how that goes. Don't fill your smokers full of meat so it's crammed side to side. Well, that's bollocks, because I've got a small rig and I've got loads of food and I've got a bunch of hungry cunts that I need to feed. So I do need to fill my smoker absolutely full to the gunnels. And so pre-made rubs, all of the big names are pushing pre-made rubs, probably because they've got a hand in selling those pre-made rubs. They're getting a cut from the deal. And it's just shit advice, both in a restaurant context and in a home context. Because if you're not pioneering, if you're not learning, if you're not creating, and if you're not honing in on your barbecue, for me, my barbecue, what makes Danger Pit barbecue different to every other little independent, tiny pitmaster, backyard barbecue cook, if we're not focusing and honing in on what makes our barbecue unique and what makes our barbecue interesting, and sticking to these frames and restrictions which are put on us by the what's meant to be the pioneering guiding hand into getting new smokers and new cooks interested in running smokers and running cooks, it's just you're following lost profits at that point. You're bad phrasing. I'm watching the timer count down on my phone. This has been a long cup of tea. 7 minutes that we're sitting at now. But really what it comes down to is just, so I know I've got some friends in my audience, because I fucking see you, I talk to you fuckers, who are really hesitant about like doing a big brisket cook, or getting your barbecue out and grilling some sausages, or cooking some meat, or cooking for your friends, or having people over and sharing a meal with them because you're hesitant that it's not going to be good, it's not going to be perfect. That the foodies at the table, I'm always that person who people are hesitant to cook for because I'm a foodie, and people think, oh, I'm going to think the food's shit, when really I'm just kind of happy to be invited. You know, it's someone's cooking for me, great. I do all my own cooking. It's quite nice to have someone cook for us. And I've never had a meal that someone else has put time and love and care into, and I'm not sat there criticising it thinking, well, this doesn't compare to a restaurant meal. I'm sat critiquing it on the category of someone I love has made something for me. It's so kind of them to do, and that's a completely different benchmark. And we talk about parasocial relationship and the difference between social media and reality, and I think this is a good example of where that erodes into our sense of fun and joy and love, which really is what barbecue and cooking and food and the spirit of sharing and community is all about. So to wrap up this loose thought and get back to tending my fires, because I can feel they're starting to cool down and they're going to need some TLC in a second, is cook for your friends, make mistakes, learn from those mistakes and try not to make them again. Remember what worked, push the boat out, try something new, try something old, listen to your friends, ignore your friends, make it up as you go along. Just make sure you invite people over for dinner. Make sure you share what you love with the people who you do love. Fuck you. Oh, I make a good cup of tea.